I am Ray, and until your energy changes, nothing changes. Where's my coffee? You see, the only reason people struggle with money, with abundance, is because their energy is not congruent with what they want. So there's this cognitive dissonance going on. See? See? Let us ponder the orb for a moment. The orb and its infinite wisdom speaks. What is that? You can't live in abundance and poverty at the same time? You see, your thoughts are energy. Your emotions are energy. So when you're always entertaining stories that create fear and worry and stress and frustration, what other things can we think of? If you allow these kinds of emotions to fester when it comes to money and abundance and just survival in general, then what do you expect? You're going to stay stuck there. So you got to change these emotions. Because think about someone who's living in abundance. When they encounter money at all, are they feeling fear? No, it's not possible. You can't be in fear and also be in abundance at the same time. Doesn't make any sense. The problem comes is when we consciously want abundance, but unconsciously we still have all of this trauma associated with money. Which is why these negative feelings come up. They're survival responses, designed to motivate you to take massive action, so you don't die. Yeah, that's about it. Your unconscious, your nervous system will keep you stuck in poverty and sabotage everything. Not on purpose, but because it's doing its job. Because if you were living in abundance and you didn't experience fear, worry, stress, frustration, there would be no emotional motivation to get out of that situation. Wow. The orb has been pondered. The only problem is that this is the animalistic way of living life. And it's not necessary anymore. We, as human beings, are no longer under the obligation to live like animals. If you didn't know this. Did you know this? Sorry to break it to you. We're evolving. I know you don't believe that we're monkeys or anything like that, so... Now we exist in a state where we can create reality out of the ether, out of nothing. My hand puppet has left me. Nope, here he is. This means that you have the power to create any life that you desire, regardless of your external circumstances. But what does it mean to live in animalistic consciousness? It means to live from your senses. It means to look around with your eyeballs and see, well, okay, this is the evidence that life is telling me. It must be true. But we don't realize that we exist completely in a subjective reality. But we don't experience objective reality. We experience ourselves. And so if you are being in lack and scarcity, if you have an identity around living in poverty or struggling, well then your outer reality is just a reflection of that, nothing more. We think that life is happening and that's the reason we are the way we are. But there's this co-creation going on. It's kind of life's fault, it's kind of your fault, but, it's your responsibility. If you don't want to struggle anymore, because it's not necessary. In the age of information, ignorance is a choice, and especially now that we have the orb of wisdom. What is there stopping us? Nothing. Literally, all you got to do to live in abundance is to change your relationship with money from fear, worry, stress, frustration to positive emotions that bring forth goodness. But in order to do that, we have to change the story in our heads. We have to change our energy. And it fundamentally comes down to your thoughts. If thoughts are energy, that means that every single thought has its own unique energetic signature. And whatever thoughts you entertain on a consistent basis, that determines your energetic signature. Because think about it. Your thoughts are going to create emotional responses in your body. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's worry, maybe it's abundance. But it all comes down to what you think about and what you focus on. So you can produce the happy chemicals anytime you want, and you can produce the sad chemicals anytime you want. It has nothing to do with your external circumstances. It has to do with your reaction to them. And once you realize that you have the power to change your reaction, well, you're no longer a slave to your circumstances. The only reason we are a slave to our circumstances is because we believe ourselves to be that way. And it's not. We believe into existence our own slavery. And we justify it by trying to be realists, by being logical. Look at the system, don't you know? Don't you know the economy is down the toilet? And there are no jobs available for me? People are living in a way that's not effective anymore. It's not effective to live like an animal anymore. It's like it is said in the Bible, for those who have, more will be given, and those who have not, even what they have will be taken away. Why is this, you may ask? Because energy is the force of creation. And the mind is a tool that directs the flow of energy. So wherever you point your mind, you're also pointing that creative power. So whatever you focus on, that is what you create. The entire quality of your life is determined exactly by the quality of the things you focus your attention on. So if you just kind of started to reflect about what you actually paid attention to, you would see clearly why your life is the way it is. It's not that big of a mystery. It's just that we're not reflecting and we're not paying attention. And we don't realize that life is happening from us, not to us. Life is happening from you, through you, and is projected out onto the world. And all the information you got going on in your mind, all your unique karmic attachments, life is being filtered through that and projected out onto the world. And that is why you see not the world, you see yourself projected outward. The problems, the struggles, the things you face in your life are reflections of you. And this is most relevant when it comes to struggling with money and poverty. Now look, it doesn't mean you weren't given a bad hand. It doesn't mean you weren't born in Kentucky or something. God forbid. But that doesn't stop you from changing. But you see, the mind comes along with all of its excuses to come and destroy our dreams. The logical mind, the governor, comes along and says, you cannot do this. Let's see if I can do an accurate Arnold. You're not good enough. Anyway, and what happens? Because we're thinking negative thoughts, we start feeling negative, which messes up our energy, which keeps us stuck in lack and scarcity. One of the fundamental things that we have to realize is that the way that most people live their life is not the way that most people should live their life. There's something called a meta in video games. If you've ever played video games like League of Legends, meta means most effective tactic available. So certain characters with certain abilities kind of randomly just become the best. So people play those characters and they win and they win and they win because they found this meta, this more effective way of playing the video game. So too, if life was a video game, there are ways to do it right and ways not to do it right. There's ways to succeed and there's ways to fail. And the way to succeed is this way. And you can succeed by living in animalistic consciousness. That's not what I'm saying. It's just never-ending struggle. Think of an example like Andrew Tate. How did he get to where he is today? Worked really hard and never stopped working and just kept going. Just sheer willpower and discipline. Now the reason it works is because when you are living that way, you focus your energies and you resonate in your own little chamber of power. You become relentless. Very, very, very effective. But is it the most effective? Because at the end of the day, regardless if you use discipline and struggle for years grinding, or if you just change your energy directly, it's the same process. It's just different ways to get to the same ocean, different rivers. So you can work really hard, change your energy, become someone who is striving toward abundance, working hard, and then eventually you'll start to see some evidence of that. And then when you see evidence of that, it'll make you a more abundant person because you'll realize, oh, I'm capable. I can do this. Yes. But the problem is they don't realize that that's happening. That's all happening unconsciously. They are in the drama of, I am somebody, doing my things, living my dreams, working hard, going to the gym, being disciplined. That's their reality. It's the surface level of things. They don't realize that this deeper game is playing. But if we play the deeper game, change our energy, focus, then we can expedite our success quickly. You can still grind and have plenty of discipline, but it's about where you're focusing your attention. Instead of focusing your attention on getting results, instead of putting your attention out onto the world, you focus it back in onto yourself. You focus it on your energy. You focus it on maintaining congruence with abundance. With abundance. Meaning your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are in alignment with abundance and not survival mode, not lack and scarcity. In the chain of events, goes something like this. Thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions. Now, we don't need to get all crazy about this. It can be very practical if we allow it to be. Meaning, if you can start having positive thoughts when it comes to money and abundance, like everything is already working out for me perfectly, what's that going to do? It's going to give you a feeling of safety. It's going to give you a feeling of security and relaxation of, oh, everything's taken care of. Thank God. Wonderful. What a beautiful life. And what's that going to do? It's going to cause you to act in ways that reinforce that state of abundance. And in the same way, if you're having negative thoughts about money, worrying all the time, it's going to make you feel bad, and it's going to make you make bad decisions, which result in the problem you're trying to escape. If you've ever wondered what separated a billionaire like Trump or a homeless person pooping in buckets, it's one thing. Kind of. It's what they choose to focus on. Because what you choose to focus on is where you give your creative power. That is what you create. So whatever life you have already created for yourself is simply just a reflection of where you have been pointing your mind. That is all. And once you realize you can point your mind in any direction you want, well, you can begin creating any life that you want. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, because you have a whole lot of trauma and conditioning and nonsense getting in the way. But once you know how to deal with it, it's not as bad as just wallowing in suffering, not knowing what to do. The big problem is that we, as human beings, don't know how to live. We've been trying to figure it out for hundreds of thousands of years, and have finally come to a place where there is a more effective way of living. First of all, by realizing that you have this creative power, which we all do. It's not strange. But then also realizing that our mind is a tool that directs that power. So it's not like life just randomly happens. That's never the case. You could say there are no coincidences. And then the next point is realizing that, oh, well, wait a minute. The reason my life is the way it is because it's a reflection of me. I'm looking in the mirror frowning about how poor and struggling I am. When all you got to do is start smiling. Because you cannot expect the mirror to smile back at you before you smile first. And that's the way of life. You cannot expect life to change unless you change first. And how do you change? You got to change your relationship with money. From being negative to being, good. So you just start thinking about more abundant thoughts. You start focusing on the abundance that is already present in your life. And the more you think abundance, the more you feel abundance, the more you take abundant action. It's all about energy management. It's all about paying attention to where you allow your mind to drift. And it will be insane because you'll see these stories that we tell ourselves, these words that we speak that are not in alignment with what we truly want and are actually actively sabotaging what we want. But because we're unconscious of these things we tell ourselves, we just don't even know what's going on. Life is just happening. So we have to begin paying attention and reflect and be aware of the thoughts that we think and the words that we speak. Because if you don't, we'll get out the swords of justice, and slice away your negativity. So moving forward, just pay attention. The moment you start shifting your energy towards abundance, your mind will automatically begin focusing on things that either come into conflict with that abundance or things that contribute to that abundance. Whereas if you're just so stuck in lack and scarcity, your mind is only focusing on lack and scarcity. And any abundance that comes, you're like, oh, you're very desperate about it. So you got to flip this narrative in your own self so that whatever abundance comes into your life, you're grateful and appreciative about it. And any money that leaves you, you're not attached to it. There's energy that leads you to being homeless, that leads you to be a beggar. Beggar consciousness, I call it. And there is royal consciousness, and they have very specific blueprints. All you got to do is align your energy with royal consciousness and away from beggar consciousness, and you will be good. Which means you stop thinking like a beggar, you stop feeling like a beggar, and you stop acting like one. You stop being so attached to this need, the strong desire of not having what you want. Because that strong desire is what is fueling your misery. It is your psychological resistance to life that is the problem. So you have to learn how to use this mind. Learning how to take your attention away from that which is negative and focus it on that which serves you. And you just practice and you practice and you practice. And you become more aware and you reflect of all the ways you're entertaining stupid thoughts. And then you stop it. Or at least you make the intention to stop it. Because it's not always so easy at first. But the moment you make the intention, it's all good. Because if you're going on a camping trip, unless you type in the coordinates on your GPS, you're just going to keep driving and driving and driving and not know where you're going. So if you want to go somewhere, you have to have something to focus on. If you want to live a life of abundance, you got to go into your GPS, type in the coordinates, Abundance Mountain, camping available, and then it doesn't matter how long it takes because you're already headed in the right direction. So you don't got to worry about it. You've already won. You're already there. It's just time has to catch up. And in the same way, once you shift your energy toward abundance, doesn't matter how long it takes, eventually you'll get there. Unless you sabotage yourself and you just give up and say, oh, well, I can't do it. It's not for me. I'm doomed to the poverty. And that is, well, your own problem. Don't do it because, that's the only way you'll fail is if you give up. All you got to do is start focusing on abundance now because abundance is everywhere. It's just we don't see it because we're so busy focusing on all the lack and scarcity. The universe is perfectly balanced between negativity and positivity, meaning there's infinite lack and scarcity everywhere, and there's infinite abundance everywhere. Big infinite oceans. So the question is, well, how deep do you want to go in that ocean? How far do you want to, start swimming? Because you can dip your toes in the ocean of lack and scarcity, or you can dive in head first. And then you ask yourself, well, how deep do I want to go? Because it never ends. It's infinite. You can believe in lack and scarcity until you literally have lost every single thing in your life. And hey, maybe that's a good place to be sometimes. But the point is, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It doesn't matter if your current circumstances are reflecting back to you lack and scarcity. Because there's infinite. That's great. There's lack and scarcity, great. Do I want to keep feeding that lack and scarcity? Do I want it to be more and more and more lack? That's why the realists lose in this game. Because if I look out in my life and the evidence before me says poverty, I'm going to believe it. And there's no reason not to believe it. Doesn't make any sense not to believe it. But this is why. If you were to just think about it, oh, well, there's infinite lack and scarcity everywhere. Well, then it doesn't matter how much lack and scarcity is in my life. It's just various degrees of a lot, or not as much. So you can have it to where you focus on 0% of the negativity that is always present and focus 100% on the abundance. And how that ratio is defined for you in your unique journey determines how quickly you start living in abundance. And all it is that when the old patterns arise, the old lack and scarcity mindsets and thoughts and stories and beliefs, in that moment you become aware And in that awareness, you have the choice to change. You have the choice to stop feeding that lack and scarcity ocean, allowing it in. And you have the choice to begin focusing on something better, something that serves you. Even if you have 99 things going wrong in this life, if you focus on the one thing going right, you can pull yourself up out of any situation. And at the same time, if you got 99 things going right, you focus on the one thing going wrong, you can destroy everything. That is the power of your mind. That is the power that you have. So be very careful about where you direct this power. I am Ray, and if you're tired of living in survival mode, I created this program to help your nervous system feel safe around money so that you can begin receiving as much abundance as you wish. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be abundant.